All right, guys, we're going to get started. Because again, I want to start on time, and the rest of the guys can join along as they start coming through. So, anyways, thank you for joining. My goal today, guys, is to give you. I'm excited for today's actually for workshop, because I'm going to try to teach you guys something that I've learned through the years as a restaurateur and as a restaurant marketer, and what we do for our clients, and just what we found that works. And it's taking some time. It's simple, but at the same time, a lot of restaurants miss this because it's just a lack of structure or understanding how everything works. So I hope that today I can give you a clear picture of how to implement this for your restaurant. If you have a team, then fantastic. You can teach them this. This is going to be recorded, so I can share this later, and then you guys can use it at your own time as well, and hopefully implement it and get great results. All right, so let's get started here. So for the next 45 minutes, I would advise, please turn off your cell phones, social media, whatever it is, so we focus on what we're doing right now. So you can really get the most out of this, and take notes. And of course, we'll have time for questions and that stuff, so we can answer anything that you might be thinking about. So anyways, why listen to me? Again, as I said, I've been in the restaurant industry for a long time, been in it since 2005, owner-operated restaurants. I was the head of marketing for a large restaurant group in South Florida. And so we executed amongst, different venues and restaurants and all that stuff. And so just learn how to do this really, really well. I have a book out if you guys are interested, Restaurant Marketing Insider. Check it out if you want. It's cool. And then we work with restaurants across the U.S. Okay, we have, they seem to trust us because they've been working with us for a long time. So anyways, that's why I have some authority here to just, speak from experience. And I'm not making any of this stuff up. Like you guys been in the trenches, and I just know how this whole thing works. So anyways, hope I can add a lot of value to you guys and that you get a lot from this, okay? Please let me know after this thing if you found this helpful. I would love to hear from you. And also would love to hear what you guys want to learn next time. If there's anything that you guys are struggling with, would love to help. So anyways, let's get started. So this whole presentation is focused on how to maximize your revenue centers, right? We all know we have revenue centers each restaurant, right? We have multiple ones, but what happens normally is that marketing is not well planned, and it's a little bit of reactive. And what I mean by that also is that we're focused on one thing most of the time, which is just driving traffic, right? We just want people, butts and seats, and that's what we're focused on. But then the other revenue centers that we have, and we're going to get into all this stuff, we're going to map them, and we're going to go do this exercise. Sometimes they get a little forgotten, or if not completely forgotten, and they're just kind of running in the background, right? If it's catering, if it's online ordering, if it's private events, we're just like waiting for inquiries to come from the website. So it's not really planned, and there's some particular efforts behind it, maybe some emails and things like that, but there's no real plan behind it. Yeah. So that's what happens. So even if you're doing okay, right, growth can stall, and you're not really maximizing everything that you have. And I'm going to give you guys a real example a little bit further on of a restaurant we work with 5 locations that they just didn't want to open more locations. They just really focused on the catering side. And we put 100% emphasis on that to grow that revenue center. And it went up to, quite a bit. So I'm going to share that case study with you. Actually went up 85% in 3 months. So that's insane. But, that's what it takes, focus, right? So that's what it's about today. Okay. So what's happening? And this is what I was just talking about right now. We have everything that we need to grow. We have the tools. We have, of course, the revenue centers and the platforms to make this work and grow. But again, there's just not an actual plan. Okay, so let's map this out. Okay, we're going to start with this. So what are the main revenue centers in a restaurant, right? You all guys know this. I'm preaching to the choir here. But again, I told you, this is basic stuff, but we're going to talk about structure and how to make this work, right? So everybody knows dine-in, of course, on premise. And we got private events, of course, if you have a full service restaurant, which is it can be a huge revenue center. And then we got off premise, which is catering, online ordering, right? All of that stuff. Okay. So those are the three main ones. And of course, it applies. You can break those down into different ones. Yes, you get your bar, and right as well. Different things, but those are the three main ones. Okay. So the question is, and this is something that you guys got to ask yourself, is where are you focused right now? Okay. Just think about it for a minute. Okay. And I'll share with you guys a story. When we were running these restaurants in South Florida, right, we were like I said, and we made that mistake as well. We were focused on growing dining sales. We had private events, but we were just waiting for inquiries to come through the website, and we had an events manager handle that. But there was literally no real plan to just push, private events specifically. We had it for, dining sales, creating different promotions, different things, right? That we wanted to get people in the door or experiences. But then the other revenue centers, which was, again, takeout, delivery, catering, and private events, there were half-ass efforts, right? So we were getting half-ass results in those revenue centers, okay? So we weren't really maximizing that, okay? So think about it. Where are you guys right now? Is your dine-in sales your consistent focus, or is it, of course, probably is consistent focus, 100%, most restaurants are. But the other ones, off-premise and private events, is that a consistent focus for you, okay? Or is it rarely or occasional, okay? We were occasional, okay? We weren't really focused, and we didn't really have a structured plan. Okay, so that's just something to help you think about it. Okay, so how do we fix this? Okay, it's a simple structure, as I said. We got to map it out. We know what our revenue centers are, but we're going to talk about the details of that. We're going to plan, and then we execute and we track. Simple framework. We all know this, but again, because we're busy with so many things and we're just focused on one of them, we miss the rest, and we are not able to maximize these revenue centers as we would like to, okay? So hopefully this plan will help you do that. Okay, so now what's driving this today? Like each of your revenue centers, go ahead and just, write this down, if you can. What initiatives, right? What programs do you have right now for your restaurant for each of these revenue centers? Okay, can you name them? Or is it just random stuff that you're just throwing out there? Is it, some emails there, or maybe some ads, or maybe, okay, we have some holidays coming up and we're just always running behind. Let's say right now New Year's Eve is coming, but there's no plan yet for that, right? Or maybe Christmas, you're doing something for Christmas Eve as well, a dinner or something like that, but it's still not fully, planned. And so there's nothing out there in communication, right? That's for dine-in. We're talking about private events. The holidays are here, right? Are you pushing anything for the holidays already? I mean, we're behind, right? We're getting to November, so we should have already been pushing that. So is there a plan for that? Are we running always on, campaigns for private events? Are we reaching out to, offices and, past clients? Are we reactivating these old guests? Any of that stuff happening? For catering, are we pushing a particular LTO for that? Are we pushing that for the holidays? Are we segmenting, or are we pushing it by type of occasion? So there's all these things that you can think about, right? That you've probably done, but when you look at this, you're like, oh crap. Okay, yeah, we're pushing this or we're pushing that, but there's no real plan, or we're running behind, which is usually the case, right? It's like usually the menus or whatever it is that's going to be put out for special, they get done in the last minute. So then we're scrambling, trying to market this as fast as possible to get results, but it doesn't happen, right? We run this like a week before the date of the holiday or whatever it is that we're doing. And then of course your results are not going to be great, right? So anyways, I strongly, recommend to do this exercise. It's going to give you some clarity into what you're doing. And if you really have a focused plan for each of these, yeah, because a lot of things, like I mentioned, just happen randomly. All right. So first step, we're going to plan next 90 days out. Of course, we want to plan. We want an annual calendar, and we all want that stuff, and that's the way to do it. But you got to go by quarter, right? And let's start with baby steps. So what are the things? What are the drivers of each of these revenue centers? I just mentioned a bunch of them right now. What are the programs? What are the things that we can do, to plan these next 3 months out? Okay. So these are the programs, right? Here's some examples of what actually drives each revenue center. Okay. So signature experiences, you can call it whatever you want. It's all good. Everybody calls it a little bit different, but that's your ongoing draws, right? Like your brunch, live weekly specials or live music or whatever it is that you have that's recurring. Okay. But that's a signature experience. Something's really different and specific to your concept, right? Seasonal moments. That's what we talked about. New Year's Eve, holidays right now coming, right? Christmas Eve, or you get Thanksgiving. If you have a Thanksgiving special, if your concept is actually, makes sense to do that, then you have that. Booking drives or sales, that's like sales pushes, right? So it's marketing and sales in this case. Are we doing reactivating our database of old past event leads or catering leads, right? Are we sending out a personalized email to them to see, hey, listen, the holidays are coming, I'm here, would love to help you, or whatever it is. Just, coming up with a specific messaging for that. So are we pushing on that side? Yep. And guest retention is, are we bringing people back through offers and incentives to people that already came to the restaurant, right? So like, those are your programs or your different ways that you can fill each of these revenue centers, okay? And again, this is very simple. You guys know this. You guys know exactly what to do in terms of how to bring traffic for each of these revenue centers. Again, the whole focus here is planning to make this work and to get a rhythm, and that's how you generate consistent results and a consistent rhythm, okay? So let's plan it out. Again, this is an example. So your next 90 days, what are we going to be doing for dining? Okay. And you're going to have your different things that you do. You're always on. Okay. So what are we doing for dining? Okay. Search and social ads. Okay. That's just an example. Signature brunch. We're doing let's say a relaunching a brunch or live music. If you're doing a sales push, like I said, we could be doing something right now for the holidays, for private events, for catering. Are we doing an LTO? Are we doing just, samples, maybe office drops, things like that? Of course, you can't solicit, but there's a specific way that you can do that. And I'll share that with you in a second on one of the case studies. But anyways, this is how you start looking at how is everything that I'm doing, in terms of marketing, promotions, initiatives, all these things tie back to each of your revenue centers. So then once you have this mapped out and you have this system, then you can, again, generate these consistent results. You got to be planning in advance again, because this is extremely important. And now keep it realistic. This is a note that I made here, because sometimes we go crazy, especially if you guys, I don't know if you guys do marketing or not. I mean, I know we got some operators here. We got some marketers for restaurants, but sometimes we're like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We fill out the calendar. We get a ton of stuff going on for 1 month. And then the execution sucks, right? Because there's too many messages going out at once. The channels are incorrect and all these things happen. So you have to be mindful to say, okay, this month we're going to be doing this. We're going to tackle each of these revenue centers, but less is more sometimes. Okay. And so you don't want to be sending out, talking about 5 different things in 1 month, because, it'll just be confusing for your audience. Because again, it's the same audience, the same data that you're using to send all out this information, right? If it's going to be email, if it's going to be through ads or whatever it is, right? Okay. So then the last step 3 is, the step 3 is execute with precision. Okay, this is what I was just talking about right now. Timing is so important, guys. And I see this again and again with, we work with many restaurants. And of course, sometimes they're planning late. So Sebastian, hey, we got to launch this thing. It happens in 2 weeks. Okay. We got to put together, this entire design this campaign, and then be out, and then be live within, a week. So that's a push, right? And then we're just promoting that for 1 week only, right? So the results that you're going to get for anything that you do, if you don't plan in advance, are not going to be great. Okay. So this is super, super important. And I'm sure you guys know, but it happens, right? And it happens quite a bit. We see it all the time. So again, if you have a map, if you have a plan, like I just showed you, right? Then you can be planning way in advance. And of course, you got to get ops buy-in, because that's the thing, right? You got to get the guys in the kitchen to get that menu, for you with time. And so it's about communicating. It's about having those meetings with the guys and say, hey, this is where we need to get. This is what we need in terms of timing. We need 4 weeks out, right? Okay, so we can get the information, we can create what we need, and then we can be out at least 2-3 weeks in advance. Okay, channel alignment, using the right mix of channels. Okay, so sometimes, listen, depending on what you're doing, you're going to choose certain channels, right? Let's say you're doing lead gen for private events. Okay, maybe you want to send an email to your database. That's fine, right? But that would be more getting into paid social and getting into Google search, right? Because people are actively looking for, where to host a private event for a baby shower or something like that, right? So anyways, you have to find the right mix of channels for each of the ones of everything that you're doing. Okay, so that's important too. Cohesive communication. Okay, that's another thing that sometimes I see restaurants struggling with, because okay, let's say we're gonna be launching this specific promotion or campaign for the holidays, and then you got a specific design for your website, then you have a different design going out in the email, and so like it's all mixed up, so there's no cohesiveness and there's no oneness in communication. So again, there's an opportunity there. You have to be consistent within your communication across all channels, okay? And then clear ownership, right? Every campaign needs an owner. Who's going to be responsible for making sure it's scheduled? If you have a team, if you're that size, then awesome. Then you got to see who's going to be doing what, okay? And have a clear owner. So to have that accountability, okay? So this is an example, right, of what that looks like. We have, for example, here we got the brunch relaunch, okay? 3 weeks before lunch, okay? Super important. That's good stuff. If you're doing the live music thing, let's say 2-3 weeks, this is 2 weeks out, that's fine. If you're doing a tasting night or whatever it is for private events, you got to organize, you got to get the people, you got to do the invitations, you got to get the RSVPs. There's a lot of planning that goes before that. So you want to be 4 weeks out at least, right? And these are the channels, right, for each of these. Now, again, each initiative is going to be a little different, but it's pretty standard, right? You're going to be trying to communicate this across all channels, unless it's something very specific, like again, this open house tasting night, which we're inviting, let's say event planners for a site visit or a tour of the restaurant, and give them a free apps and stuff like that, or have an experience like that. Then yes, that's going to be more of a personalized email to them, inviting them, and you're not going to be running ads for this stuff, right? Okay, so it's just got to be have that common sense of what channels you're going to be using for what. Okay. Now, after that, last step is track what matters, right? Because then this is the thing with restaurant marketing, guys. And I always experienced it when I was part of this restaurant group, and also with, later on, it was like, okay, we're doing all this stuff. Is it working, right? That's always going to be the question from ops, like saying, hey, is any of the stuff that we're doing anything? And many times what happens from restaurant marketers is like, oh man, we're just not sure, right? Because we can't, this is not e-commerce. We don't get, we're not selling pants or whatever. It's a little bit different, right? And it's true in a way, it is true, right? You can't track absolutely every single dollar, every person that comes in from a marketing effort, but there are ways that you can get pretty close. Okay. So the first thing is you got to measure, of course, by initiative and by channel. So then you'll know what channel is actually bringing better results, so that you can see what you want to invest on. If it's paid ads that's bringing you results, okay, you can ramp up your paid ads part there. If it's emails and you have a huge database, then maybe you don't need that much ad spend and that much ad spend. So you focus on that, right? So that's how you get those. You do that tracking, and then you get that information so you can make better decisions. So now, in terms of what is it that what you need to be doing for these things is, what I would advise for any of these things, you need to build specific landing pages. That means you guys know what landing pages are, but with tracking links. Okay, so if you have a reservation system like OpenTable or 7 Rooms or any of those, you can create these tracking links where it can tell you where those reservations came in. Okay, so you can build one by channel. So then you'll know exactly how many reservations you're driving. Let's say if you're doing, of course, an on-premise thing, right? And that's how you track it. If you're going to be doing something that's, for private events, then of course you're going to measure number of leads. You're going to measure bookings, right? From whatever activity that you're doing, those are the things that you're going to be tracking. Okay. So you have to be looking at that and then map it back to what revenue center that goes out to. Okay. That ties into, Okay. Now, let me give you a real example here so you can see this in action. Okay. So this is a restaurant. Guys, we're doing well, right? Established restaurant, big place with multiple private event rooms, but there were some things that were still there's still a huge opportunity. Okay, they were growing, but kind of stagnant in a way. Okay, so the first thing that we did was map things out. We applied the same structure. Okay, let me see. What are your revenue centers? These guys don't have any off-premise. This is only dine-in. Yeah. But they do have private events. Okay, so those are the big opportunities there. They have a huge bar as well. So, okay, so those are the things that we need to tackle. Okay, so then what do? We plan. Okay, quarterly calendar, blending always on, recurring signature experiences like I talked about, and then the seasonal campaigns, which is going to be driving your spikes. Remember, you always want your always on stuff that's going on. Is it, doing ads for reservations, if you're running stuff for catering, for private events consistently, and then you have these spikes from signature experiences that are recurring. It could be monthly or it could be weekly. And then you have your seasonal campaigns, which are, and it depends on what it is, right? If it's any holiday, right? Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever it is, right? So if you have that consistency and then you have those big spikes, that's how you're going to have that predictable revenue built in your restaurant. Okay. And that's how you do it. Okay. So anyways, how we executed always on for private events. We also do specific campaigns for the holidays or for graduation season. Any of the seasons that come, they're focused on, again, we also tie it back into this revenue center. Okay. And then dine-in, of course, we had we did a patio music series. We did a relaunch of a brunch. And then we had two big promotions here, right? We had there are two big holidays really for this particular concept. We had Mother's Day and then we had Cinco de Mayo. Okay, two big ones. That was really good. So when you guys are in season, take advantage of these things, right? It doesn't mean it depends on your concept. Of course, you're not going to match to every single holiday, but if you do, you got to be sure to leverage this. Okay, like I said, pro tip: timing is important because you have to be launching this with enough time. And these guys were having that problem that they knew what was happening, but execution was always late and not well planned. So they weren't really getting the results that they were after. Okay, so when we came in, and that's what we did. We implemented this 4-step process, and then we were tracking everything that we were doing. And let me show you the results. So May, these are actual numbers. We did all these things together that I mentioned: the private events, the brunch, relaunch, and the Mother's Day. And we generated over $60,000 in trackable incremental revenue. Okay, this is in addition to what they were already going to be making. And for Mother's Day, a well-planned, executed campaign, mind you, this is a popular restaurant. We just pushed it beyond its limits, and they were 50% up in sales year over year. Okay, so again, a well-executed plan yields those types of results. Okay, now in June, same deal. Okay, we had Father's Day. Okay, it's not as popular as Mother's Day, but it's still a great tool to time to leverage that. And we pushed reservations, direct reservations, and we were also pushing private events. Okay, now private events have a long sales cycle, remember, right? Because they got 2-3 months out. So maybe if you're not closing leads at the beginning, you'll be closing leads in the next month or the next few months. Okay, so always keep that in mind as well. So the next month, we generated almost $40,000 in revenue. This is, again, incremental revenue. Okay, so very simple structure that we just discussed. It was just well planned, and those are the results that you'll start seeing. And if you build a rhythm, then you can maintain consistency. Okay, this is just an example of how we track things. See, we break it down by channel, and we were seeing, okay, how many came from the website, how many came from ads, how many reservations came through email, from the open table experience, and the organic side. Okay, so then I can tell where do we want to push the gas, right? What's driving, the most amount of reservations. So as you can see here, there was just 70 times your ROI. It's insane because we just how to get in front of the right audiences as well. But that's huge, right? Everybody wants to see those results, and it's really great to see that. Next case study, we're going to go through this really quick. This is the one that I was talking about earlier. These guys, amazing people. These restaurants have been around for 50 years, third generation, of restaurant owners. Love to work with these guys, but so their mindset was, okay, listen, we don't want to open more locations. As you guys know, real estate prices are crazy right now. And to open a new restaurant it's a huge investment. So it's like, hey, let's maximize what we have, right? And they were already pushing catering for the holiday season, right? So it was a little bit of an afterthought, right? We were focused on these other things, right? Dine-in traffic, online ordering, and that stuff. But catering would only go up during certain times of the year, right? So for the holidays, it would really get crazy and they were very busy. But then the rest of the year, it was kind of stagnant, right? So the goal was, all right, how can we grow catering by 100%? That was the goal. So they came to me and say, hey, Sebastian, we need your help with building a plan for this. How can we make this, catering get to 100% growth? Okay. I get a little scared when they told me that, because I wasn't really sure we could pull it off. But anyways, what we did the same thing. Okay, we did the framework. Now, this time, of course, we were focused on catering, but we also wanted to push the rest of the revenue centers and not forget about them, right? Because we can have that consistency growth. So what happened? So we mapped out, again, what are we going to be doing for catering? What are the specific tactics, programs that we're going to be doing? And that was a mix. There's a whole training on just that itself, but I'll share with you guys right now what we did in a nutshell. But basically was a full-on strategy from having presence for catering in every single channel, in store as well, right? Even in the owner's signatures, it was just everywhere. The team that were bought in to push catering, to talk about catering, that's the first thing you got to do, right? Like get everybody focused into the same goal, and that's it, right? The next is building specific campaigns. In this case, we wanted to push more corporate catering because that's where the money is, right? So, okay, how do we get into offices? Because you can't go solicit and just drop off some catering just like that. I mean, you can, but it's not really the best way to do it. So we came up with a way of running ads to a corporate list of people within a certain area, within their area of each of the restaurants, so we can offer a free tasting. So it was basically lead gen, right? So they were filling out a form, they were coming in. Once we had them in for scheduling a free tasting, then we had the pass to go into their office, come with a script and say, hey, here's your order, and your next recurring order, right, that we can set it up for next week is going to be 10% off, right? So that way you start building those relationships once you have your foot in the door, and then we started setting those recurring orders in motion, right? So that's started happening amongst, between 5 locations. So that was just one of the strategies. The next was SEO, because again, we're competing against, if you really want to push this, now you're going to be competing against catering companies, not just with other restaurants that offer catering, right? This was a full focus. So if somebody, Googles, corporate catering, a catering company is going to come up, not your restaurant, right? So we needed to start ranking for this. And so we implemented an SEO strategy with AI friendly search as well, because now everybody's searching in AI, right? So we could rank higher for all of those keywords related to corporate catering, right? And we did. So that's what started happening. In addition to that, we ran always on, which we talked about, right? Always on ads for catering, but we broke it down by particular occasions, because people, when they're looking for catering, sometimes they're looking for, best catering for baby shower, or best catering for a rehearsal dinner, or whatever it is, right? So we broke it down by that. And they do have a online catering system. So like you can do online orders for catering. It's a very simple system. So we can also track purchases online. So again, lead gen for getting people getting in the door of offices. Then we're doing running ads always on by event type for purchases, and we're tracking online purchases. Then we're doing SEO, right? And then also we're doing LTOs every quarter, right? Specifically for catering. So we have a different offer every quarter. So we're running this consistently. So you have all these things running cohesively, and that is your result in 90 days. Okay. So pretty cool. Actually, I was really happy to see this, because, it was actually a little bit of a test to make this, to make this work. But now we're running this program with multiple restaurants, and, it yields consistent results. So 85% growth in year over year in 90 days. Last month, they were at 91. So we're almost there to hit the 100% growth, and again, I got to tell you, of course, we did our part, and I can share with you what we did with marketing. Now the guys over at Padrinos are fantastic, and they're just have their operations down really, really well as well. Okay. So the next step was, like I said, we needed a framework for the other revenue centers, right? We can't forget about it, because sometimes we're like, hey, let's focus on catering. We only focus on that, and then we forget about the rest, right? You got 5 locations. So again, always on ads for the driving reservations. We use social proof. They won, best Cuban restaurant. And so we've used that as leverage to run ads to a specific audience. I mean, I have other trainings on how to do that specifically, but I'm not going to get into the technical side. So we can drive more reservations, right, to the restaurants. Now, and we're doing that also through Google search, and we're doing that through social. Yep. Then we got the seasonal campaigns and always on for private events. Then we got certain signature recurring experiences, Noche Cubana, Cuban style Saturdays, depending on which location. Then we got the live music nights. Yeah. And then we got the weekly drink specials, right? So we have all these things running in parallel, right? And each again ties back to a revenue center. So then I can see, we can map this thing out, and then we can see that, see what's happening. And I can tell you, these guys are, I mean, this is not a result that you see every time, but I mean, these guys are up 8 to 35% year over year. And this I'm talking during summertime. So, which, in South Florida, if you guys know it, summertime is dead, right? So this is not something that you see often. Okay. Now, cool. We're going to just take a couple of questions here to see, if you guys have anything you want to comment, anything you want to ask. Okay, I see here. Yeah, Thomas. Our private events are hit or miss. Is there a simple way to keep leads coming in all year, not just during the holidays? Yes, Albert, there is a way to do this, of course. And it's like I mentioned, it's planning. But the first thing you got to do is, yes, you can run lead generation campaigns to bring in leads consistently. And then you can also leverage your database, which you already have in your restaurant. If you're, which I'm assuming you have a private events database, then you can be doing what we call reactivation campaigns, and you can tie it into a specific holiday or a specific thing where you say, hey, Tom, listen, right now for the holidays, I know we hosted your event at this time. It was great. Now the holidays are coming. We'd love to see if you're looking to host something or something like that, right? So, and you send this out, and you can use a CRM for this. And if you have an email tool, I'm assuming you do, then you can do that. So you can do this in volume instead of sending one, get your events manager to send, one email to each of these people you have in there. Okay. So you can send that out. I know that you could probably do it in Triple Seat. Not sure if you're using Triple Seat for private events. We use a different CRM for this, just because of it allows us to do SMS, and also the way that you can do a set of cadence of messaging is better. But anyways, that's one way that you're constantly, driving leads. And of course, basics, make sure that your private events page for your restaurant, for your website looks great, and have all your event spaces with descriptions, with capacities, have your event menus there, right? If you have if you can have a tour of your spaces, that's fantastic. That's going to also be helpful to just drive more conversions, because I see a lot of restaurants, they just have like a little form and like nothing else. And of course, you're missing out on getting just more leads through there. Okay. And then also make it part of your steps of service when you have your team talking to your GM talking to your team members, that they make it a point to talk about it with their guests. Because sometimes, they don't even, sometimes they walk into a restaurant, the private event rooms are in the back and they can't even see them. So they don't even think about it. Right. And then have it in your four walls, right? If you have table tents, if you're that type of concept, then you can have them. Or if it's something a little bit more discreet, when you're giving out the check and you have something within there, like an insert or something, and you're talking about private events, then that's the way to do it. Yep. So, but if you map it out, you can plan a whole campaign around this, so you can be driving leads consistently. Okay. Yeah. Thomas, we do holiday and promo pushes, but they feel random. How do we know what to actually focus on each quarter? Okay. Thomas, just planning, right? Looking at your year complete, like look at a calendar and say, okay, what's happening each month, right? And if you have that, then you can, and then you're tying each of those things back into each revenue center, like I mentioned, those examples, then you can plan it out and just have your marketing team or whoever's handling this to be doing this way before this happens, right? So be planning 6 weeks out at least for the next thing that's coming. I mean, map out your 90 days, and then you can map the rest of the quarters as well, so you can have an annual plan. But like, you got to be looking at, let's say today we're getting to November. I'm already planning for January, right? Because I got to be looking, okay, what's going to be happening in January? The rest of the stuff is already planned out. It's already, kind of ready to go. So we can be out with consistency and enough time to get the results that we want. Okay. Last question. When you say execute with precision, what separates good execution from average execution? Martha, for this is, like I mentioned, timing is super important. Planning. So then you can, and then the channels that you use. Okay. You have to make sure that you're using the right channels and you use them properly, right? Let's say that you have a database, but then your open rate, or let's say your delivery rate sucks because your database is kind of messed up, or your email tool is not great, so it's sending everybody to spam, all those emails to spam. Then you got to look at that. You got to look at your delivery rate, and then you got to look at your open rate, make sure that those things make sense. right? That they're actually working well. And then if you're running paid ads, you got to be running to the right audience, right? Use your database. You can create custom audiences within, Facebook ads if you're doing that, if your team is doing that, or if you have an agency, whoever's doing that. Yep. So again, you're using the right channels and you're using them in the right way to get the best results. Okay, so that's what separates great execution. Okay, cool. Let's move on. So why do most restaurants struggle with consistency? Okay, this is like I was saying at the beginning, that would happen to us, and the reason that it would happen is because we just lacked planning, and sometimes we lacked resources. We were still small at some point, and so we were trying to do everything ourselves. So it was very difficult to do this with enough time because we were always struggling to get, get the menu, get this out, and get all the information that we needed to be able to, plan and execute accordingly. So that's the thing, and we can't, like I said, you can't be launching, campaigns or any of these things, initiatives late, because again, you're not going to get the results that you're after. And so the other thing is that, we got, this happens many times. Everybody's wearing a lot of hats, right? You got maybe one marketing person that's like also doing events. And that's not possible, if you're trying to get this person to do marketing within all the different channels properly, and then also at the same time be doing private events. I mean, I get it for sure when you're lacking resources that you're actually doing this, but that's going to get you into trouble, right? But if you plan, like I just showed you, this is going to make things a lot easier, right? Because you can be doing this without stress, and of course get the buy-in of your entire team, so you guys can get this done, and you're able to, get this done. Okay, so that's why most restaurants struggle with consistency, because of these things. But the whole thing here is, how do we create a rhythm of growth, right? And by following this 4-step framework that I just showed you, that's how you do it. Okay, instead of jumping from one promotion to the next one with no plan, you put this in a spreadsheet, right, and map, like I just showed you, and then just map it out. Okay, this is these 3 revenue centers. What am I doing for each of these? And then tie it in for each month. Okay, so that's how you do it. It's by busy, and you see, it's not about getting busy, right? Because I see also a lot of, sometimes we got 4 or 5 things in 1 month, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot, and it's great because you're marketing so many things. But again, if you're trying to communicate so many things at the same time to the same audience, to your same database, and to the same people that you're targeting with ads, then this is not going to work, right? It's just the convoluted bunch of information that people just get confused and they don't even know where to go, right? So again, that's the framework: map, right? Plan, execute, track, and then whatever works, once you track it, then you're going to repeat it, okay? And whatever you track and you see that can be improved, you can improve it, and then you repeat it, okay? Because once you guys have this whole structure set up, then it's just about repeating this thing over and over again, okay? So again, map, plan, execute, track, repeat, adjust. That's the cycle, guys, okay? Very simple. But again, most restaurants miss it. Now, what does this consistency looks in practice, okay? Like I said, don't overcomplicate. Don't do a bunch of things at the same time. Just choose 3 or 4 things. Okay, this next 90 days, what are we going to be focused on? For if it's going to be for driving off premise, what are we going to be doing? If it's going to be for dine-in, what are the next things that are happening right now? Of course, everybody's busy. It's the holidays, right? We're starting to get busy because it was a crappy season for the summer. So now things are starting to change. So we're just everybody's scrambling, really, right? So hopefully you guys can kind of take some time to go back, plan this out, not just for these next 2 months, or if you don't have time because you're already scrambling, because I know we're in it, then start planning for next year, right? And that's how we do it. Again, just get on this early, just be steady, plan these 3-4 things out, and just maintain that consistency. And I guarantee you, if you do it properly and you execute properly, you're going to see those consistent results, get those peaks, stay with that consistent revenue, and it's going to change your life. Yeah, it's going to change how you market your restaurant. It's going to change the results that you're seeing. Okay, so guys, that's basically it from the structure side. Of course, what we do at Breath is help restaurants build their rhythm, right? We help restaurants map this out, from looking at what revenue centers are driving what. If you're doing anything, mapping this whole thing out for you, build your 90-day plan. Well, we actually build an annual plan, not a 90-day plan. And then we execute. We pick the right channels and we execute whatever needs to be executed for each of those things that we have on that map. And then we track, we look at results, we adjust, and then we repeat, right? So we help restaurants do this to make it easier for them because, sometimes that is not a possibility to do it in-house. All right. So any takeaways here? All right, Ray, how do we keep a team actually following through on this every quarter? We plan things, but it falls apart every month. Okay, Ray, that's a great question. And we used to experience that same deal. At some point we would map this out. We have a marketing plan for and once we were in it, it would just fall through and it was crap show, to say the least, because we weren't aligned internally. Okay, so to solve that, Ray, there needs to be an internal alignment between operations and marketing, whoever's doing that, and have those meetings. We would have those meetings every week so we could be aligned and say, okay, where are we at? What are we planning next? What are we doing? And we need the buy-in from everybody so we can stay focused and get what you need, right? Because if you're marketing the restaurant, say, hey guys, I need the content, I need the menus, I need all this information to be able to make this happen, right? Now, if you're in operations and you're pushing marketing, hey guys, like, what's up, man? Are you guys going to be marketing this stuff? Like, we're pushing out this beautiful menu and you guys suck. You don't have this stuff out. All right. So that communication needs to happen. And so to make sure that both teams, are aligned and this is happening consistently. Okay. There's no magic formula to that, but just, open communication and planning. It goes back to planning, right? But if you have this map that I just showed you, then it's going to be a lot easier to go, to share with operations and say, hey guys, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. This is tying back to revenue because ops cares about revenue, right? And marketing cares about revenue as well, but we're looking at other things as well, right? So it's like, hey, this brings in clarity of where to go and how to do this, okay? Lisa, we're already stretched thin. How much of this can actually be automated or delegated? Yeah, Lisa, listen, if you're stretched thin, to be honest with you, you're gonna need help, right? At some point, I don't know if you can afford it or not, but if you can get somebody in-house to do this, then great. If you can't, because you can't afford it, then yes, I would look for help for an agency, right? Somebody that can help you with this. If you can, look into that. Of course, if you want us to look at whatever you're doing and see if it's a fit, then we can talk. If not, that's cool. Today we're just here to give you guys what I know about this thing, and hopefully it's useful to you. But if you want to talk later, then we can. All right. Any other questions? Okay. How long does it usually take to see results once we start running the structure plan? All right. So Martha, that's a good question as well. Listen, you're going to start seeing results as immediately. I mean, basically immediately as once you start executing, right? If you're executing properly, once you have this plan in place and you start doing this, you're going to start seeing results. Now you got to measure those results to see if it's actually working, right? Because you might be doing some things that are not really jiving, right? So maybe sometimes it happens that restaurants create these, initiatives or promos that they just don't work, right? They might have an idea. It's like, hey, I want to push, lunch sales in a restaurant that's maybe let's say in a place where there's no foot traffic and it's a destination. So for you to get lunch sales, there is going to be a freaking mission, right? Because there's just no foot traffic. There's no offices around you. So, it's about identifying what works for your restaurant, depending on your concept, your location, and these different things. And then once you define what works and you execute it, it's going to start getting those results, right? So it's about planning, but also again, identifying what is going to be aligned with your concept and wherever you at and what's going to make sense, right? Or somebody that's telling me that, hey, I want to push, I don't know, I want to push, breakfast, and because they also are offering breakfast, but there's really, it's not a restaurant that's known for that. So to build a day part, man, that's also a mission, right? So it's not as easy. So I wouldn't focus on that. Focus on the things that are working. Okay, focus on how can you maximize what you have, right? So like that example that I gave you from Padrinos, those guys, they knew they could execute catering great, right? Because they were doing it at the holidays, and they had all the systems. They just needed a little bit more of a structured, it needed a structured push, and that's how it happened, right? So it's about that, okay? All right, so I think, any more questions? All right, so I think we got to the end of this, guys. I don't see any more questions here on the chat. Listen, if you guys need help with this, with any of this stuff, here's the link. You can just scan this QR code here. You can schedule a call with me. We can look at your particular case and see what's going on, and see if we can help. You know, hopefully, again, guys, you got a lot of value from this deal. This is going to be recorded, so I can send it to you. We'll send this to everybody. And so if you need to show this to your team or whoever that's going to be, you know, helped by this, that's my goal. And if you have feedback, if you guys are struggling with anything else, you know, when it comes to your restaurant and marketing, just, you know, shoot me a message. You have my email probably from, you know, the emails that we've sent out, you know, and just reach out and we're here to help. All right. So anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was helpful. And I hope to see you back on the next training. We're going to be doing a training on planning for 2026. Okay, so it's going to include some of this stuff, but we're going to get more into details of other things. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for being here. And again, I'll see you next time. Take care.